Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. The original Xbox is an amazing console with some amazing games, and I think it's awesome that some games are still preserved to play easily today on the new series consoles. I know we all wish there were more, but what's there is some solid selections. Recently, I talked about 5 great backwards compatible games, and today I'm returning back to the subject to talk about 5 more that I think are great and that you should try out. We are only 10 games into this series, so be sure to let me know in the comments what I should cover next. All footage was captured off of a Series X, and I want to thank my campers and camp counselors for their support. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up with the retro Xbox content, and let's go ahead and hop into the first game. The first game on today's list is Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. It was released in North America and Europe in 2003 for the Xbox, PC, and PS2. It was published by LucasArts and developed by the highly underrated development team, The Collective. This game was available on the Xbox Store digitally, but unfortunately, it has been removed since then, and it's only playable by disc if you never bought it. I reviewed this on the channel a bit ago, but it was worth discussing again since the hype is building up for the new Xbox Indiana Jones game. This game serves as a prequel to Temple of Doom, which takes place in 1935. Emperor's Tomb is a third-person action game where you take Indy across the globe to prevent the artifact called the Heart of the Dragon from falling into evil hands. You face off against Nazis and triads while solving puzzles and spelunking in tombs, and maybe even the tomb of China's first emperor. If there is one thing Emperor's Tomb gets down correctly, it is capturing the spirit of Indiana Jones. The plot is spot on with the movies, with eccentric characters, Indiana being exceptionally cool, and exploring many cultures and locations. It captures the movie's fun, old-school film series feel. If you love Indiana Jones movies, you will love the spirit of this game. The dialogue and plotting are strong here, and the gameplay is equally a great time. It plays very similarly to the Tomb Raider series at the time, with you using your whip to traverse ledges, and there's tons of platforming puzzles. You will also use the terrain of many of the game's levels to solve those puzzles. If you love puzzle gameplay, this game has much to offer you. The game also has a fun and simple combat system consisting of simple combos and button presses. The Collective does a good job of taking the fighting and making it feel dynamic with the world, allowing you to pick up a ton of objects and things littered everywhere and letting them flow into the combat. The combat is not the game's main focus, but it is a nice way to break up the puzzle and platform gameplay. The platforming sections are a ton of fun, and they had tight jumping and swinging controls to keep things smooth. When you need to swap objects, like moving from your canteen to your whip, that feels a bit obtuse and slows down the gameplay slightly, but this is only a minor inconvenience and doesn't damage gameplay. The strongest part of the game is the level design. The game is split into smaller chunks of giant levels. For example, when you go to Prague, this section is a giant set of tunnels and rooms with an exterior section. Yet the game splits this down into multiple different levels, and it allows the game to create a detailed atmosphere with a ton to look at and small but great platforming sections. Each locale is crafted lovingly, and it's a joy just to look at everything they put into the game. Throw in that the composer here crafts a loving ode to the music of John Williams, but crafts something all their own. It's a great Indiana Jones game, pure and simple, and the definition is incredible on the Series X. The colors pop and really allow you to appreciate the detail in this game. The Emperor's Tomb is perfect for any action-adventure game fan and is a must-play for any indie fan.
Fortune and glory, here I come.
Next up is Breakdown. This game was published and developed by Namco and was released in all regions in 2004 and is currently available digitally for $10. Breakdown is one of those weird, obscure Xbox exclusives, but its notoriety has grown with time. I was introduced to this game by an old friend way past its release. Breakdown is a sci-fi first-person action game with elements of brawlers, fighting games, and first-person shooters to make a completely off-the-wall mix of genres that makes this game stand out today. There was not much like it then, and there certainly isn't much like it today. In Breakdown, you play as Derek Cole. You wake up in a lab with no memories and realize you have been experimented on. You must fight your way out, defeating the military and supernatural beings with your extreme powers. There are some insanely fun twists and turns along the way, and I think they're so much fun, especially as a science fiction fan. It's an absolutely insane game at times, and sometimes it's nice to get involved in something so wild. And it's crazy to see something with such a crazy premise sink down into the gameplay. The combat in this game has a heavy emphasis on fist combat. You pull punches, uppercuts, and a whole assortment of combos in the first person. You also do flips and somersaults. It's a range of movement you wouldn't expect in a first-person game, and you would expect it to play rough, but it gives this game a fun flair. The constant movement and fast but thoughtful fighting offers a ton of engaging mechanics. It's really not like anything else, and I love that about it, especially when it plays so well. The shooting mechanics are also really solid and offer great shooter gameplay. It's also extremely tough. It's a game that ramps up so much, and when you get to the end, it is so difficult. If you like a good challenge, then this is a good selection. The game also looks excellent on the Series X with a crisp look that already looked fantastic on the original Xbox. Character design and level design are all top notch. The level design here is one of the best parts. The amount of detail packed into the spaces of this game is staggering. The rooms in this game have a maze-like design, and there's so much in them, like Xboxes being hooked into the TVs and soda machines littering the hallways. It's a wild experience in a video game going up to a soda machine, picking up a soda, and chugging it all in first person, and also you pick up ammo off the ground in first person. It's a weird take on realism in such a bizarre game. It's all quite a blast and an absolute treat to play. If you want to play an Xbox exclusive unlike anything else you've played before, this one is worth checking out.
You should find a radio.
Next on the list is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, published and developed by Ubisoft. This game came out for most major consoles in the 6th generation, and it came out on the Xbox in 2003 in North America with a 2004 European release. Unfortunately, this is another one that has been removed digitally from the Xbox Store and will have to be played through a physical disc if you haven't purchased it already. Sands of Time is an action 3D platformer with many conventions that were fresh then and would influence many other games in the future. Sands of Time remains a fresh and fun experience and a great playthrough. In Sands of Time, you play as the prince who takes a magical dagger during a raid on the city. The dagger can control time, and along the way, he and a princess must stop an evil plot and use this dagger for their benefit. This dagger can solve puzzles or even stop your death by rewinding time back to a previous point. It's a really fun mechanic, and it's one that we've seen before and after, but Sands of Time uses it effectively, and it all runs really smoothly. I think the elements with the blade are a ton of fun, and it makes the combat just a little more difficult, where you have to suck up power from enemies with your dagger, otherwise they will keep respawning. The combat all around is a great time, and it's fast and fluid. It uses your blade to swap between many different enemies, and you can even backflip over them to get a hit from behind. It feels like fluid parkour with how much movement is going on, and I always find it a joy to get into the combat here. The platforming in this game, though, stands out in the generation. This game implements many free-running elements such as running on walls or kicking off ledges to get higher and higher. The free-flowing combat would go into making the very first Assassin's Creed game, and you can see many early elements of that game design here in this one. It was truly revolutionary then, and it feels great to play today. So many platforming sections ask you to flow through so many moves, and it's a blast to get them all down effectively. It all looks excellent on the Series X and has a great, clean look. The art style in this game was something I always felt was stunning. How the desert lands of Persia come to life, and it feels like a classic epic film. It's filled with giant buildings and huge rooms to explore. Destruction effects are constantly popping up on the screen, and it looks excellent for the time. Sands of Time is one of those legendary games of that generation, and I can see why. It's crazy that gameplay from this is still being used today, and it's crazy influential, but not only that, but it's just a great game. Next up is one that I've talked about plenty of times on this channel, and if you've been watching for a while, you should know I absolutely love Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This game was released on the Xbox in 2003, it was published by LucasArts and developed by BioWare. It is available for $10 on the Xbox store, and let me tell you, that's a steal. This is one of the most beloved games of the 6th generation. It's an RPG set in the Star Wars universe, which has ample chances for things to do with the lore of the movies and even beyond that. This game takes place far before the prequel trilogy, which is one of the best options for a Star Wars game of this magnitude. It allowed the team to explore the many races and places in the universe without having to adhere to the plot of the movies. As with many BioWare games then, a huge focus is on character interaction and plot, and I always enjoyed the branching dialogue in Knights of the Old Republic. There are many characters, especially ones in your squad, with rich histories to really dig into, and I find it endlessly enjoyable to dive into each of these characters' lore. The writing is good enough to keep it fresh and enjoyable the whole time, and it stays engaging, even with multiple playthroughs. The plot is great, and the epic feeling fits perfectly with the Star Wars canon. Even saying that though, I don't even think you have to be a huge Star Wars fan to enjoy this game, because the story has a more intimate feel when it comes to character development, and it makes it stand out while still retaining a huge story enveloping it. The action part of the gameplay is unique and very enjoyable for anyone who likes slower RPG combat. In this game, you select your attack or moves, and the game will automatically attack for you. You will watch how battles go and see hit markers and stats telling you how well you're doing. It's not a bombastic battle system, and it probably will not attract action RPG fans, but honestly, I like a nice slow RPG combat system, and I find this one to be entertaining. It helps that there's so much combat gear to equip, and it has a great skill tree. There are tons of force powers to choose from in this game, and the customization is so much fun that it makes it one of the best RPG experiences available on the Xbox. On the Series X, it runs at 60 frames per second and looks excellent. It has a consistent quality and looks great the whole time. It's already such an interesting looking game based on all the places that you go to. There's a great selection of locales, and they all pop with their different color palettes. The benefits of playing on the Series X aren't just in the looks though. It also comes with all of the DLC, making for a complete package. And one last thing to note is how incredible the score for this game is. It's done by Jeremy Soule, and it perfectly riffs on Star Wars while being its own thing. It is one of my favorite compositions in the Star Wars universe. This game is a great one to pick up and play for any RPG fan.
Not this again! Now you get it.
The final game on today's list is Dead or Alive 3. It was released as a launch title in North America in 2001 and continued to be a launch title in Japan and Europe in 2002. Tecmo published it and Team Ninja developed it. It is available on the Xbox Store for $15. Dead or Alive 3 was one of my favorites out of the bunch at the launch of the Xbox, and it is one of my favorite fighting games on the console. It's also just plain one of the best looking games on the Xbox. Team Ninja came out swinging in 2001, creating such an incredible looking game that absolutely popped on the Xbox. And this is not even talking about the Series X, which it looks absolutely stellar on. The color and environments look incredible, all of the character animations are fluid, and it all has a distinct style that is easy to love. On the Series X, it shows off the game's great look even more, and on the Series X, I think it would be easy to convince someone that you are playing an early Xbox 360 game. The combat in Dead or Alive 3 is top notch for the time, and it's still an excellent 3D fighter to pick up and play today. The combos and moves are all extremely fluid, and something about the easy to learn but hard to master fighting mechanics makes this game addicting to keep trying to improve on. The counter system here is well done, and all of the characters have nice and diverse movesets, making swapping characters a treat to see what movesets they bring to the table. Taking all of these gameplay elements and moving them to the multiplayer mode will give you hours and hours of fun, which personally I've spent hours in this multiplayer. I love a good fighting game, but I definitely am no expert in them. However, I know Dead or Alive 3 is just an excellent game. I like how this game develops a fun little story to accompany each of the fighters. Most of the time up to this point, I feel like story was fairly secondary in some fighting games, but here you get some cute cutscenes and voice lines to keep the story going. It builds up these characters and makes each player in the roster more notable than just their movesets and how they play. I'm not saying that the plot will wow you, but I think it's easy to have a good time with it, and that is all you need out of a good fighting game, and I think it delivers on that well. Throw in that there is a wide variety of game modes to participate in, and you have more to explore than just the story. It's just a solid fighting game package that has stood the test of time. If you want something to pick up and play with a group of friends, it's got you covered here, but also offers a lot of records to beat and stories to go through in the arcade and multiple other modes. This is a great game to pick up and play on the series consoles, and it isn't even the only Dead or Alive backwards compatible game, but we will get there with another edition of this list. But that does wrap it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to keep up with the retro Xbox content, like as it really helps out my channel, comment below with what I should cover next, or which of these is your favorite, and I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members, campers, and camp counselors. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.